When you first turn any of the Daikin units on, you will go into the Configuration Wizard menu. This unit's on a monoblock. If you've got a Hydrobox or an integrated unit, then this same display is on the front of the unit itself. So the first question it asks me when I turn it on is what language do I want it in? I'm going to choose English, and then it goes into time and date. So I tell it what the time, date is, month, year, and I can just scroll down with the left-hand dial to choose or change those. If I want to change anything, I use the dial on the other side. Once I'm happy with that, press the left-hand dial and I go into System Settings. It already knows what type of unit it is, so I don't need to change that. Then ask me what type of backup heater I've got, if I've got one at all. Then I go into Domestic Hot Water, and it's got all the Daikin part numbers in here, or no hot water if it's just doing heat only. And it's also got the options for a third-party cylinder with a small coil, so if it's a small cylinder, or third-party with a big coil if it's a larger cylinder. So this particular one has got the smaller Daikin cylinder on, so I'm going to leave that there. Scroll down to the next one, and it asks me emergency. We always put it in emergency manual. If I leave it in automatic, what this means is if there's a problem with the refrigeration cycle outdoors, it will bring in the backup heater and run your heating on electric only, which is obviously very, very costly. It's the last thing we want. So if I put it into manual, at least the customer's got the option to turn that on if there's a problem with the unit itself. Scroll down to my next one, and it asks me about the number of zones. Now, this doesn't mean zones in the traditional sense of heating engineers. It's asking me how many leaving water temperatures I've want. So if I've got radiators upstairs with a temperature of say 45-degree flow and underfloor heating downstairs with a different flow temperature, I can tell it it's got 2 zones. This one I'm going to tell it it's got a single zone, as this particular unit is just running off radiators. Scroll down to the next question, which is glycol. Have I got glycol in the system? We don't use glycol here at HPIN, so that's a no. Next one is your booster heater capacity. So it's asked me about the immersion heater. So most immersion heaters are a 3 kilowatt, so that's fine. Scroll down to the next one and it says bivalent. So have I got another heat source working in tandem with the heat pump? In our case, it will be no. Once I get to the bottom, I press the left-hand button and it takes me to the next set of questions. So, main zone, emitter types. Have I got underfloor heating? Have I got fan coil units? Or have I got radiators? And I can change that. If I've told it it's got 2 zones, then it will come up with the option of radiators upstairs, underfloor heating downstairs, and I can choose whatever configuration I want that to be. So for this one, I'm going to tell it I've got radiators. Scroll down to the next one and it's asking me how I want to control the system. So I can control it with an external room thermostat, and this means a third-party thermostat. So your Nests, your Hives, ESI controllers, anything like that. I can then change it to room thermostat, and this means I've got a Daikin Madoka unit on my system. I can also change it to leaving water. So it'll work on leaving water temperature. For this one, we're going to use an external thermostat. This actual system's got an ESI thermostat on it. Scroll down to my next one, and it asks me for set point mode. So I can have it on a fixed flow temperature, which is obviously a really inefficient way of heating with a heat pump. So I want this to be running on weather dependent. Once it's on weather dependent, I can scroll down, schedule it will be no for now, but we can change that later. And the weather dependent curve type, we're going to set that to 2 points. It's easy to understand for us as installers and for the customer if they wish to adjust the weather curve at a later date. So next we're going to have a look at how to set up our weather curve. Now the first thing I need to look at is my design document so I can see my design flow temperature. For this case, I'm going to say that this system is running on radiators and it's been designed to a flow of 45 degrees. So I set my 45 for my first number. Scroll down with the other dial and now I can adjust the next number. The next number I want to set to my desired room temperature or as close as I can get to it. Some of the units will only go down to sort of 25 degrees. So 45 degrees flow temperature, 21 degrees is my target temperature for my rooms. I then scroll across to highlight the next number, and I want to set this to about 0 degrees. So at 0 degrees outside, I'm running my desired flow temperature to keep my house nice and warm. So I've got my 0, and then the last number I'm going to set to 21, which is also my desired room temperature. So at 21 degrees outside temperature, it's going to be roughly 21 degrees indoors. And then as it gets colder and colder, my flow temperature into my heat emitters is slowly going to rise until it meets my design temperature and my design flow. Click synchronize, and it asks me about the tank being the hot water cylinder. What do I want my heat up mode to be? So I've got schedule. I can set it to schedule and a reheat, or reheat only, so it keeps the temperature of the cylinder up and running all the time. Again, this one is very much customer specific. I would generally always have a schedule for me. Comfort set point is where do I want my cylinder to heat the water up to. Generally, we found around 48 degrees to be sort of the sweet spot, really, where it stops bringing in the immersion to help it out to heat that hot water up. So I'm going to set this to 48. Eco set point, if I want a eco hot water temperature setting, I can put that there. Once we get through to there, I can click OK, and the system will synchronize, and now we've told it what we want it to do.